Everywhere we turn, the world shouts the same command. More money, more possessions, more comfort, more validation. And yet, when you look closely, this pursuit of more often leaves us emptier, not fuller. The Stoics saw this clearly. They understood that abundance is not found in accumulation, but in elimination. Seneca reminds us, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. Modern life hides this truth behind glittering distractions. We confuse what is essential with what is optional. We convince ourselves that the next purchase, the next achievement, the next possession will finally satisfy the restless hunger within. But each new more only creates another not enough. It is a cycle with no finish line. So the question arises, where can I do with less today? Not in theory, not someday, but today. Because doing with less is not deprivation. It is freedom. It is lifting the unnecessary weights off your soul. It is rediscovering joy in what is already yours. Imagine your life as a ship. Every want, every attachment, every excess is another heavy crate loaded onto the deck. Soon the ship begins to sink under the weight of all the things it was never meant to carry. Now imagine tossing even a few of those crates overboard. The ship rises, it moves freely again. It becomes what it was designed to be, a vessel that sails. This is the promise of less. Not emptiness, but clarity, not scarcity, but sufficiency. Epictetus taught his students, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. When you ask, where can I do with less today? You're not shrinking your life, you are reclaiming it. Maybe it is less noise, turning off the endless scroll of news and gossip. Maybe it is less consumption, resisting the urge to buy something you don't need. Maybe it is less comparison, choosing gratitude over envy. Each act of less creates more of what matters, more peace, more clarity, more room for virtue. So begin here with the first truth. The world will always tell you that more is the answer. But the Stoic knows that less is the path, less clutter, less craving, less illusion. Only then can you finally see what has been here all along. Enough. We often confuse what is necessary with what is optional. We call luxuries needs and conveniences essentials. But in truth, most of what we chase is not required for a good life. It is excess. The Stoics drew a sharp line here. Food, water, shelter, friendship, virtue, these are true needs, but gold, palaces, exotic banquets, these are trappings, not requirements. Seneca once wrote, if you live according to nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to opinion, you will never be rich. This is the key. Nature requires little. Opinion demands everything. Modern life blurs the boundary. A smartphone becomes indispensable. A luxury car becomes basic transportation. Streaming platforms become necessary relaxation. But pause and ask yourself, do I truly need this to live? Or have I convinced myself that excess is essential? Epictetus taught that every desire has a cost. When you crave beyond your needs, you pay, not just in money, but in freedom. You become dependent, restless, enslaved to the fulfillment of the want. But when you separate need from excess, you begin to see clearly. You realize you can live with less, and in doing so, live better. Think of water. Nature asks only for a drink. Excess demands sparkling bottles, imported brands, elaborate rituals. Think of food. Nature asks for sustenance. Excess demands indulgence, novelty, endless variety. Think of clothing. Nature asks for warmth and modesty. Excess demands fashion trends, overflowing closets, endless consumption. Everywhere you look, life's simplicity is obscured by layers of excess. But if you strip those layers away, you discover something extraordinary. Not deprivation, but relief. The Stoics even practiced voluntary discomfort. Seneca would spend days eating the simplest food, wearing rough clothes and sleeping on the floor. Not because he hated comfort, but because he wanted to remind himself that he did not need it. That life could be endured and even enjoyed without excess. So ask yourself each morning, where can I do with less today? One less distraction, one less indulgence, one less craving disguised as a need. Each act of subtraction is an act of freedom, and when repeated, it trains the soul to desire less, to live simply, and to rest in sufficiency. Because the truth is this, the fewer excesses you cling to, the more fully you can appreciate the simple gifts of life. And those gifts you already have. Before we continue, I want to share something important with you. We've seen that a large number of our viewers, perhaps even you, listen regularly, but haven't yet subscribed. If this message has resonated with you so far, if you find even a moment of stillness or clarity in these reflections, we kindly ask you to consider subscribing. This channel is not about noise, it's not about trends, it's about service. And I can promise you this, our small but committed team will continue doing everything we possibly can to bring you value every single week. Thoughtfully researched, carefully written, quietly powerful. All we ask in return is that you join us by subscribing and turn on notifications so you never miss your next moment of insight. Let's walk this path together. Life today is noisy. Our attention is pulled in 1,000 directions. Notifications, headlines, opinions, demands. Each one insists, look here, react now, don't miss out. But every pull is a theft of your focus, a theft of your peace, a theft of the one resource you can never replenish, time. The Stoics valued clarity of mind above all. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the largest empire in the world, reminded himself, you will never master yourself until you silence what disturbs you. In other words, to live well, you must learn to do with less distraction. Think of your mind as a lamp. If the glass is smudged with constant interruptions, the light grows dim. But when you clean away the clutter, the flame shines brightly and steadily. So ask yourself, where can I remove distraction today? Maybe it is less noise from your devices. Turn off the notifications that fracture your concentration. You do not need to be available to everyone at every moment. Maybe it is less clutter in your environment. A messy room leads to a messy mind. Remove what is unnecessary and you remove mental weight too. Maybe it is less gossip, less comparison, less needless drama. Every story you carry that does not serve you drains energy you could give to what actually matters. Seneca observed that people are frugal with money, yet wasteful with time. He warned, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Distraction is waste. It is the scattering of life's coins into the wind. And every day you allow it, you pay the price of a diluted existence. But when you do with less distraction, you discover more depth. You are able to read a book without checking your phone. You are able to listen to a loved one without your mind elsewhere. You are able to work with steady hands, bringing excellence instead of fractured attention. This is not about becoming rigid or ascetic. It is about reclaiming your mind from those who would rent it cheaply. So today, remove one distraction. Even a single subtraction clears space for clarity. And in that space, virtue grows. Focus strengthens. Peace returns. Because when you do with less distraction, you finally gain more of yourself. Most people fear scarcity. They dread the thought of living with less comfort, less security, less wealth. But the Stoics practiced something astonishing. They chose scarcity deliberately. Seneca advised, set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, is this the condition that I feared? Why? Because by rehearsing poverty, you remove its sting. By practicing discomfort, you prove to yourself that you can endure it. This is the strength of voluntary simplicity. It is not about hating wealth or condemning pleasure. It is about training the soul to remain free, to never become enslaved by what it owns or consumes. Marcus Aurelius, who slept in palaces, also marched with his soldiers in the mud. He wore their armor, ate their food, shared in their exhaustion. Not because he had to, but because he knew that simplicity builds resilience. When you deliberately do with less, you discover how strong you truly are. Eat a simpler meal, and you realize food's purpose is nourishment, not indulgence. Sleep on a harder bed, and you realize comfort is optional. Step away from constant entertainment, and you realize silence is not emptiness but rest. Epictetus, who owned almost nothing, reminded his students, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. If you have trained your soul in simplicity, no loss can shatter you. You may lose wealth, but not your peace. You may lose position, but not your dignity. You may lose comfort, but not your freedom. Voluntary simplicity is a rehearsal for life's inevitable storms. You practice doing with less now, so that when less is forced upon you, you will not collapse, you will endure. So ask yourself today, where can I do with less? Not because I must, but because I choose. One meal made simpler, 1 hour without noise, one day resisting the urge to buy. Each act of chosen simplicity strengthens the spirit. It reminds you that happiness depends not on possessions but on character. And in a world obsessed with excess, this practice is not weakness, it is power, it is freedom, it is preparation. Because the one who can thrive with less is the one who can never truly be broken. The chase for more never ends. But the realization of enough transforms life in an instant. The Stoics knew that wealth is not measured in coins or possessions, but in the ability to be content with what is already here. Seneca wrote, "He is most wealthy who is content with the least, for contentment is the wealth of nature." Contentment is not laziness, it is not giving up ambition, it is freedom. Because when you can honestly say, "What I have is enough," you are no longer ruled by craving. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Do not hanker after what you do not have. Instead, think of the blessings you do possess, and remember how you would long for them if they were not yours." Look at your life right now, the people near you, the opportunities before you, the quiet moments available, if you would only see them. If you lost them tomorrow, would you not call them treasures? Then why not treasure them now? Doing with less reveals that you already have much, that the simplest meal can taste like a feast, that a single genuine friend is worth more than 1,000 admirers, that one day lived well is wealth beyond measure. Epictetus taught his students to shift their question from "how can I have more" to "how can I need less?" Because needing less makes you strong, it makes you untouchable by fortune, it allows you to walk through life calm, steady, grateful. So, where can you do with less today? Less complaint, so you can discover gratitude. Less hurry, so you can discover peace. Less craving, so you can discover freedom. Each act of less creates space for the one thing that cannot be bought, a soul at rest. And when you finally see that enough is wealth, you will understand the Stoic secret. The richest life is the simplest one. So let us end with a challenge. Before the day closes, ask yourself, what is one thing I can release today? One want, one distraction, one craving, so that I may live more freely, more gratefully, more fully. Do with less, and you will always have more.